So if I was to go out and work directly with a law enforcement department and say, hey, I'm, going to help you with this human trafficking operation on the kinetic side of it, on the arresting side of it, one, I'm not law enforcement, so I'm probably going to screw it up. Because law enforcement has a really hard job that I don't obviously understand at the constitutional level the way that they do. So I'll end up violating somebody's civil liberties probably. But we don't not, and even if we went to go do that, that's just one department we can help. Right now, as you and I have this conversation, thanks to technology, we have over 7,000 law enforcement agencies in the United States who have direct access to our data for free. And it's free thanks to the generosity of donors. And those are house-built solutions that our engineers are building. So why go just help one law enforcement department when for actually the same price, we can help 7,000 simultaneously? Wow. So now we're connecting human traffickers and human trafficking cases across the country because they're in social media. So the best way for parents to learn kind of what to look for would actually be to go to DeliverFund.org and go to the training side and take our Human Trafficking 101 course and get to see, it's an hour-long course. So we couldn't really go through that right here on this podcast, but it actually breaks down all of the different things that they need to do in order to intervene in the trafficking cycle if they get the opportunity. But it's important to understand that many times they're not going to get the opportunity because they're going to think, again, that their child is just talking to somebody on Xbox. They're just talking to somebody on TikTok, or something like that. So what I tell parents is the absolute best thing that they can do is not allow their children on social media, period. Not, well, we have supervised social media, and like, no, period. Do not allow your children on social media. My children are young. Grade school. And they already know that they will get a phone when they get a driver's license. And they will get social media when they turn 18 and they can sign up for their own accounts. Not before.
I did the same thing. Now I caved on the phone thing because we got 4 kids and the dance schedule we caved on.
Sure.
That being said, the social media, they already know
that rule.
Yeah. They already know they're not having access to social media until they're 18. And they understand. I told them, and I didn't have to get into the sex trafficking thing. It was about how it interrupts brain pattern and growth, and it's just not good for them. So, no, that's really, really good and really good information. So everyone, what was the website again so they can go take that course?
It's DeliverFund.org. And you just click on the training tab. And if you're law enforcement listening to this, we also have a law enforcement specific training course that's absolutely free to you. All you've got to do is sign up, and we'll send you a code to the law enforcement specific one, which contains some information that we don't release to the public. If you're law enforcement and you want access to our data, just send us a note through our website and we'll verify that you're law enforcement and get you access to our data and get you access to the tools. But one thing that parents can do, we also have an app called HT Safeguard, and it's in the App Store. And what you can do is all human trafficking these days, basically, because it originates online, it all also happens online. So most human trafficking happens with advertisements for trafficking victims that are posted on the front-facing internet. There's about 30 different websites. Most of them are hosted overseas. What we do is we harvest that data. We've got 3 supercomputers and a brilliant engineering team. So we harvest that data and we make that data available at a massive scale to law enforcement. And our AI will actually crawl through that data to help law enforcement find connections they didn't know existed and to help them find the information that they're looking for so they can filter it down into information that's relevant to their case and their jurisdiction. However, in a very limited way, we've made that data available to the public through our app. So if you download the HT Safeguard app, you sign up for an account, you can actually screen phone numbers and email addresses for connections to potential human trafficking and connections to commercial sex advertisements. And so if you have a young girl who, I don't know, is chatting with somebody on Instagram or TikTok, Snapchat, whatever they're using, and that person then gives them a phone number and says, hey, hit me up, text me, hit me up on Signal, WhatsApp, whatever the platform is, they can run that phone number through that data, through our app. And if it comes back with a positive connection, we're not saying that person's a human trafficker, but we are saying that that phone number has been connected to a commercial sex advertisement. That's a big red flag that might make you want to pay attention to who you're communicating with. So that's a great example of the types of technologies that we're providing, because it's not about, helping you or helping this parent over here or that one over there. It's about helping all of them simultaneously. And there is no silver bullet for this issue. That doesn't exist. So it's a combination of trying to train the public through our social media accounts, plus working with law enforcement, plus building this app, plus all of these other technologies that we're rolling out to be able to help find human trafficking victims and human traffickers better, faster, and cheaper so that we can bring them to justice at scale.
Great. So I asked you, the original question was about who are they looking for? Is there certain characteristics?
Any vulnerable child. We have had human trafficking cases where it was young boys, and dad was actually a cybersecurity professional, very high up in a very large company, and so was doing all the right things because the guy knew what he was doing, and yet his son was manipulated through and ultimately trafficked, and the whole conversation started on an Xbox. We had a case in California with a family with a very recognizable last name, and their daughter was going to an $80,000 a year private school. And she ended up being trafficked out of that school, all the way down to obviously the child who's under supervised because, dad's not in the picture and they're mom's working 2 jobs to make ends meet. So what they're looking for are vulnerable children. All children are vulnerable at some point. The one piece of advice I can give actually applies to both parents, but primarily to fathers, which is if you want to fight human trafficking, the absolute best thing that you can do is just be a good father. Be a good, trusted father. And that in itself reduces your child's risk of being trafficked significantly.
Oh, that's really good. I've had the blessing to talk to other experts like yourself, and one of the things that they've said as well is they look for fathers that aren't a threat, meaning that they're either not there or they're not physically intimidating enough to pose a threat.
I would disagree with that. I've heard the physical intimidation thing, and that's just not true. They look for fathers who are checked out. And we have cases. So we do more human trafficking cases than any nonprofit on the planet, and have more human trafficking data again than any nonprofit on the planet, which is not as much of a feather in our cap as it is an indictment of the system, because you would sure think that governments would have more than we do. And when we look across the cases, the fatherlessness, be it father's not in the picture or the father's checked out, is something that we see consistently. But I mean, we can tell you stories of fathers who were, semi-pro bodybuilders, special operators, all types of different things that ended up with daughters who got in, who ended up in a bad situation. And we can tell you fathers, we can tell you about the doughy dad bod, who, was maybe not necessarily his best self, but he was a phenomenal father, and daughters who came to that doughy dad bod and said, "Hey, there's something wrong here. I've made a mistake. I sent a picture I regret," or whatever. And those fathers, while being the least physically intimidating people you could possibly imagine, were more importantly not intimidating to their daughters. And their daughters felt safe enough to be able to approach them. And so I think as men, we like to think that, but I see it all the time, especially in a lot of the kind of circles that I end up running in, where these dads who are like, oh, I'm going to protect my family. It's like, man, you haven't closed with a human since you were in high school. And sorry, your jujitsu training on the weekend ain't the same as the person with tattoos on his face who got out of prison 3 days ago, who killed 3 people in prison, and now is coming up against you. Like, you're not even a speed bump for this guy. And so again, being a good man, being a good father, that is the number one thing that you can do. It's not physical fitness. It's not how many guns you own. I mean, most people own a lot of guns, can't shoot them anyway. It's none of that. It's just being a good father. And being a good father usually means that your daughter, when she makes a mistake, and she will come to you and ask for advice on how to deal with it. And then the thing that I'll add to that is, because now everybody's probably wondering, well, what do I do if my daughter does come to me? You become the squeaky wheel. You get everybody involved. You call your county sheriff, you call your city police, you call the FBI IC3 office, you file reports with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. You call your attorney general, you call every single person that you can, and you make sure everybody knows about it. And you make sure that people start moving. And if you hear law enforcement say, oh, there's nothing I can do about that, you move to the next law enforcement department. But you just keep, you become the squeaky wheel, because unfortunately, I think most people in America, back to where we started, right, with the government just communicates with its constituency terribly. They get their education on how the government works through Hollywood. And they think that you call one FBI agent and suddenly everybody's on alert. Oh, no. I mean, you'll have FBI agents who work in the same office and have cubicles next to each other, and they don't even know what each other are doing. And it's not because of some type of super secret compartmentalization. It's just because they're all overwhelmed and busy. And so if you're a parent and you end up with your child being targeted for exploitation, you just don't stop until somebody somewhere takes action.
Yeah, and that's such great advice.
An authority. I mean, somebody with constitutional authority, which usually comes in the shape of a badge and a gun and a set of handcuffs, right? Or prosecutorial authority, and until they actually open an investigation and they start moving.